In a significant move to reshape international trade relations, United States President Donald Trump announced on Wednesday during a Make America Wealthy Again event held in the Rose Garden that exports from Nigeria to the United States will now incur a 14% tariff. This decision is part of a broader strategy aimed at addressing trade imbalances and what Trump's administration perceives as unfair trade practices. Dr. Ajen-Alamonia Ibieneye, a real estate investor and economic affairs analyst, will have this conversation with us on the effect of the 14% tariff imposed on Nigeria by the United States of America. Doc, you're welcome to Signature Business.
Yeah, good evening. And good evening to Nigerians. I'm struggling to hear you clearly. But
I'm
I'll just try
welcoming you
to
to the
see
program,
how.
sir. Can you hear me better now?
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good evening.
Good evening,
Good
Doc.
evening. It's
Let's
a pleasure.
move on with the business of the signature business. For a couple of months now, starting from January, there's been tariff imposition on and counter tariff positions between America and some countries that had or have economic ties with United States of America. And recently, this imposition of 14% tariff on all exports from Nigeria to USA was announced. I don't know what your position is really, but what's the rationale behind what Trump has just done, okay? U.S. current administration has done.
Well, you must look at it from a view that as the president of United States, he will have the intention of trying to see that the economy does better. And coming up with those tariffs, it's not to the Americans, it's a good one, but to Nigerians, it's not. It's not in the sense that it will affect export. And majority of the income generated by our nature,
Doc, we're having a
Nigeria,
holdback from your
export.
end. Can you handle that, please?
I'm struggling to very hear you. You said what? Sorry? Hello?
All right, go on now.
Yeah, because I was struggling to hear you sincerely. So, but what I'm saying is that I don't know if you can hear me clearly from your end. Can
Sure,
you
I
hear me?
can. Go ahead.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that what he has done is actually to project the economy of US, where he is the president. But to Nigeria, it's like a backlash because it will affect, like I said, majority of the income generated in this country is barely based on export. And so if you now have 14% tariff increase, in fact, what the tariff specifically is pointing at, they are like taxes. You know, initially, if you flash your mind back to 2023, you observe that the just as they are looking at import, export, we are also looking at import. And at that stage, um, Nigeria was charging their tariff to the US for 27 percent. And so if they are coming up with 14% tariff on export, then they are trying to equate it vis-a-vis, like I said, they in business or in transactions, people go into business for profit. And the reason they want to do what they are doing is to vis-a-vis getting the product, because majority of the things that Nigeria exports is the crude and cocoa and all of that, which is not as much as the crude. So, and if you look at what Nigeria imports from the US, is more of refined products. So it will really affect those persons, individuals that might have decided to go into export. Because now it will automatically affect, there will be, for them to remain in the market, they will need to reduce their price. And this will be, this is not good for the country.
Okay, which Nigerian industries and export products are we really looking at here that will be affected by this tariff imposition?
Yes, like if you look at the country now, for instance, I want to give a kind of paint a scenario. Like Nigeria as a country, like I said initially, what are the things, what are the investments of this country? There is need, there is dying need for investment. Now, if you look at a case study like the way River State is, if you look at that index, you find out that for the past 10 to 15 years, there is no foreign investment to the state. And now that the state is trying to come up with programs where, like in terms of agricultural programs, where they are trying to give loans and all of those things, where foreigners will also come and invest, and then you'll be looking at benefiting from those tariffs or those taxes. It's now a situation where there is a military administration. So the people don't want to invest in places where you cannot have a perfect judicial system, because it's like a major risk. When you go into a place where anybody can buy judgments, it's a problem. So I think the government really needs to sit up and then come up with investment, things that can actually create a conducive atmosphere where industries can thrive. Because if industries don't thrive, then where are we heading to? I think another thing the country needs to do is to ensure that, I want to give a case study like even what happens in the United States of America, where other countries want to, they stay in their country to produce, but they tend to make them come to their own country, invest in that country, claiming that they have to build their product to the American standard. Now that is a strategy, and I think Nigeria can also come up with similar things where people that into the bilateral trade, people can also ensure that investments are made in this country. Now, if those situations are not considered, people will just be running at loss and trying to meet up their demands, which is not,
Okay,
it's not
I
good
was
at all.
actually trying to establish the products we can be looking at here when we talk about those exportations and industries as well.
Okay, sorry, you said? Sorry, can you repeat what you just said?
Okay, I was asking questions around the industries, the products that can be affected by this tariff imposition.
Okay, yes, that's what I'm saying. That basically the ones it will affect are those ones that deals with exports, not imports. This particularly will affect exports. Like for instance, you have some persons, individuals, who tend to export coal, who tend to export cocoa and all of those things. Although the country still indulges in such, but not holistically, because there are still individuals that still indulges themselves in those form of businesses. Now, if these industries these industries need to strive. After their capital, their running costs, they should look at profit. If you now have a situation where you now have a tax increase of 14%, automatically it will affect it. Now, what are the things that the country or individuals could do to those industries? It means that they must look at, because before you cite a business, you must actually look at the market. It's like business. If you want to cite a business, you must look at problems, issues, things that people are suffering from. You could then create solutions. Those solutions are the businesses that basically could generate income. So if you look at Nigeria as a country, we really need to do a lot. US, what are US? US also sells weapons. Apart from these, their motor parts and all of those kind of bilateral trades that they indulge in. So I think that for the industries to strive, that will be able to come up with competitiveness with such nations, there are a lot of things that weighs them down. We have situations where you don't have even power generation. So if you look at it, there are a lot of things that people indulge in the means by which they tend to export. But when
Okay,
this,
let's move on to something else. I don't know if we're going to experience the kind of things that, because there are also other countries, Canada, Mexico, some other countries that were affected by this tariff imposition. But they quickly
yes,
also placed a tariff on some U.S. goods imported into their own countries. Apart from that, too, there are also other countries who are also in negotiation with USA, and they have threatened that if it doesn't end well on their side, they may be forced to also impose tariff on USA goods. I don't know if this whole thing will also affect the balance, the trade balance, economic balance between USA and Nigeria, and how.
like I said, this is basically for Nigeria. If you look at other African countries, the tariff is not up to the 14. Some runs to 10. If other nations are having theirs, I think the focus should be on how to develop the economy, where if you have this kind of challenges, how to stabilize it. That's where the focus should be. Now, if you have a system where you don't have counterproductive system, it will now affect the economy as it is doing now. Because most of the people that have indulged themselves in those, whether they are doing the trade, remember, it has to do with, for now, we are looking at America, it has to do with the dollar. If you decide to say, okay, you want to shift this export to maybe UK places or maybe Europe where they deal with euro or maybe they deal with pounds, sterling, you will agree with me that the value of the pounds is higher than the dollar, and so it is not helping. It will still be crunchy to those persons who want to maybe diversify to other parts of the world for their business, for their export business. I don't know if maybe we're on the same page.
Okay,
Hello?
Doc, I
Man,
don't
this
know
is
if this is
really,
going to also impact on foreign direct investment, like you alluded, and you cited an example with River State. But even before that and away from that, we have seen foreign businesses also leaving our own soils. I don't know what this will further do to our foreign direct investments.
but it's going to affect it again. When the economy keeps crumbling, it will definitely get to the state where the government of the day not being able to provide conducive environment it will definitely amount to crisis. So what I expect the government to do is to quickly see how internally they could begin to diversify because they look at the scale of preference. Majority of what is being exported is the crude, and what about these other cash crops? What happens to them? So I think the government should be able to look inward and see how we'll be having more of exports. Because if you look at it, there is also the African growth where they tend to Nigeria benefit from it. So if you remove it, if like from that 27%, they are already taking up 14, you're looking at 13. So they are almost falling at the benchmark of 12.5. So if it is not critically looked at, it is something that would actually tell badly on Nigeria.
Okay. But is it possible that the affected industry players can begin to adjust to remain competitive despite the tariff? Is it possible? Should we expect that? Or is it the right thing to do as a matter of fact?
No, no, I don't think so. If you try to make them adjust, what are they adjusting? Everybody goes into business for profit. Now, if the president of the United States of America has been able to come up with a strategy that will generate income, more income for the economy, you don't have to begin to talk of how they will reduce it, because you shouldn't be living at the mercy of other nations. We are independent nation, so we should be able to see how to create an economy liaising with other because when you look at the market, you should be able to come up with things that are solutions to other countries that are problems to them. Through that medium, you can begin to generate income where people can even begin to borrow and to do things like that. So I don't think that if Trump has come up with that strategy, it's good for his economy. But for us as a country, we should also put ourselves together to see how we could ensure that the industries function. It's terrible that people go to school and begin to look for a job. Rather, it should be a system, job opportunity for people. I don't know if that's clear enough. I don't know if it is the network, but I'm really choking with. I'm not really getting. I'm just trying to comprehend one or two things I'm hearing from what you're saying. But I'm not really
Okay,
clear with
okay.
the
At any
network.
point that you're not able to make out what I'm saying, you can ask me to repeat. Okay, I think it's the network interfering. But moving on, I know that Trump cited fair trade. That is creating some sort of balance so that other countries will not milk their own economy as a reason for imposing these tariffs on countries. Now, I don't know if you have any knowledge of a prior trade agreement that has been in place that could actually be a foundation for Nigeria to renegotiate with US in terms of this tariff. I mean, 14% is a whole lot.
It's a strategy. It's a strategy, and it is understandable. Now, if because Nigeria cannot always be on a news, the economy, we shouldn't have a leadership that will be trying to survive on our news. No, and that is the strategy the US president is trying to adopt, because now if they try to with that policy, once you go, you will be working.
Dr. Ibieneye, are you still there?
Which is not favorable to the nation, and it is something that would always make Nigeria not to feel independent. So those policies, I think that since they've come up with what they want, Nigeria as a nation should also come up with a strategy on how to beat. There are so many things that US is dying in need of. So Nigeria should also come up with things that will also be a means of taxing. Because if you look at basically what are the things that the US is importing, that is from their country, or they are exporting to our country. So those are the things that we look, because basically the ones we have that they need, they are now trying to increase the tariff, that is the taxes on it. So we should also come up with some things that they would also need, just as we can also increase their import base. I don't know if maybe I'm
tariffs on their own goods.
Sorry?
Okay, I was just saying, just like other countries are doing, trying to counter impose tariffs on some of their products. But let's conclude.
Yes.
Looking at the sunny side of things, do you think that this could push Nigeria to strengthen trade relations with other global markets, or at least look inwards and promote self-sufficiency?
Yes, basically, because normally when you you must look at it's called like the SWOT analysis, where you look at your strengths and weaknesses. Like this situation now, it is something that ordinarily should strengthen or make Nigeria to come up with more options of survival. If, for instance, the transactions they are having with US is affecting the economy, they should also look at elsewhere. Again, if the products you have are good products, you can market it everywhere. But when the product is, it is something that you have other persons still producing, the competition is more. So it is something that actually would make Nigeria to think out of the box, and is a good one. But I don't expect them to begin to go on their knees and try to talk of how to reduce it is much or it is not. Of course, if something that will be good for Nigerian economy, if Nigeria is adopting it or trying to accomplish it, would you then say that no, such should not be done, that they should reduce it? They should, no. Like, look at the strategy they applied. The kind of tariff they are charging Nigeria as a country is not the same with other African countries. Because it is, with the other African countries, it is less. They are running to like 10%, while Nigeria is 14%. And if you look at what Nigeria is charging the US, it's 27%.
I guess that's why my first question was the rationale behind this imposition. But Dr. Ajen-Alamonia Ibieneye, thank you very much for your contribution on Signature Business.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.